It's an hour.
An hour?
Yep. And if it gets done earlier, awesome. Again, don't just fill time and fill space, because then people will know, like, this is something I don't want to miss. Another thing that's super simple, and people would be willing to do this. You'd be shocked. We haven't started doing this, but I'm going to start Skyping in friends to like meet with our team. And if they're in town, then obviously I'll bring them. But like a Carrie, I can't probably afford to bring Carrie to an all-staff meeting, but I can ask him, would he be willing to Skype? And how awesome would that be? To hear, like, hey, Carrie, like, have him pour into your team, love on your team. And whether it's a Carrie Newhoff or it's another pastor in the denomination or whatever, most people are just humbled to be asked. Especially if it's like, hey, you don't have to even share, or just tell us 3 things you're learning right now. I could do that in my sleep. I feel like God's teaching me so much. I'm so simple, he needs to. And so just those types of things too. But try to make it all, really plan into it. And so the guy that kind of helps co-lead with me, he's at our Sertoma campus, and he's just very, very scheduled. So have somebody like that if you're more loosey-goosey like this Yahoo is, where it's like, I'll just kind of show up, hey, what's happening? Oh, sweet. Where Travis is like, do we know what we're talking about yet? And I'm like, ooh, that's right. Plan ahead. Okay. I see what you're saying. So have somebody like that to co-help you. Or if you are that plan ahead person and it's going to be terribly boring, find someone who's carefree and is like, we need to just have something fun. We need to read the room. Also a great chance just to walk through a part of your vision statement. Like, what's your value? Like, values. Try to drop that in. Who are you? Try to constantly share that. So if I have any stories about the next person for Jesus that's come through, you better believe I'm sharing it in there. Like, hey guys, I just got this cool text message. Can I just read this to you? And people are just like, oh my goodness, just that why, the why, the why, the why. This isn't just a job. If this is just a job, gosh, man. So, do you have another one?
Well, that sounds incredible. I'm trying to figure out in my head how you fit it into an hour.
It's so cool is to have that, and instead of it being too long and people are like, oh my goodness, maybe even shoot for 45 minutes. Leave me wanting more. I was like, that was great. I don't want it to end. Oh, but guys, have a great week. We're going to pray. It's like, what? No, more of her. Have her share more. Nope, she can't share anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, when you have that, instead of it being like, everybody knows this should have ended 30 minutes ago, just cut it off, like, keep it tight and just plan ahead. And delegate ownership. So let someone share. Again, make sure you have healthy people sharing. Make sure they're at a good place and they're loving working on your team. Otherwise, it could turn into a sob story that's not cool. But if you have a healthy person, your youth person, hey, would you mind giving a talk? So a perfect example. Our number 2 at our T campus under Travis, her name's Kimberly. She's the best at getting volunteers. Their kids area always has way more volunteers than you ever need. No kidding. She's the best. Who do I want to hear from about volunteers? Kimberly Gass. I don't want to hear from me. Are you kidding me? Kimberly, she's our expert in-house. Better than Carrie Newhoff. So Kimberly, hey, would you mind sharing on stage? I don't know about that. Like, no, Kimberly, seriously, you'd be awesome. I'm not really sure. No pressure. But if you feel like, Kimberly, you just have this gift. And so then she came, and the first thing she said is, I've been up since 1 o'clock this morning. She literally didn't sleep. She was so nervous. But her talk was so good. She gave these nuggets of gold that I didn't even know about. Because it's like, she's like, what do you mean? What should I tell about? Whatever you do to get this many volunteers. What is it? Just tell us that. Well, I don't. And here's the thing. Yeah, put it in a bottle so we can drink it. But it's so cool though, those heroes that you have in your midst will never know they're heroes. And they'll also not be able to tell you the secret sauce. It's almost like, why did it double from 1 to 300? I almost struggle because it's like so normal for me in that area that you could just like, I don't really know what it is. We'll dissect it. So what Travis, our Sertoma campus pastor, did with Kimberly was, hey, can we just meet up? And he just asked her questions. because she didn't know the answer, even though she lived out the answer. And then he helped, like, oh my goodness, Kimberly, you share those 4 things. That's it. Just cut it off there. And so she did, and it was dynamite. And then to see her, Kimberly, yeah.
She's only 41.
Is she 41? Do you know she's 41? She's our oldest staff person. She's our oldest full-time staff person. We have 2 part-times that are a little bit older. But Kimberly always says they don't count because they're part-time. I think silently she loves being the oldest person.
You said about constantly learning, and you talked about reading and podcasts. So who are you reading? What are you reading? Who are you listening to?
Great question. So right now I'm reading Carrie's new book. So I'm reading that. I'm also reading, I wish I had my bag, The Cultural Code. I don't even know who that is. It's a secular business book. It's been really, really good because our culture this summer was not good as a staff. And so I'm learning. So again, the people on stage at anything, they have nothing figured out, just so you know. Very few of them do. So I'm reading that book as well. Those are my 2 like learning books. Podcasts, everything from Craig Groeschel. I mean, his stuff is so tight. It's like 20 minutes. You can find 20 minutes. And even if it's a different culture from whatever, you can take something from it. And even if you don't like Craig, like, I don't care, he's still got some things to teach you. And I think even just us as Methodists, the person on the other side of the line theologically, blah, 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 you have something to learn from them. So cut out your ego and all your crap and just humble yourself and learn. And so I think just even when I sit down with someone, even in Sioux Falls, that I know is crushing it in a certain area, I'll just tell them, like, hey, can you tell me what you're doing in there? Like, what are you doing in there? What's that about? So I try to meet up with a bunch of people too and just ask them their thoughts, especially in this season of like coming out of this wonky season. I've probably asked more questions than ever before. Is there anything that you see in me, even just kind of studying myself almost? So yeah, anything, Carrie and Craig are probably my 2 main people podcast-wise and then pastor-wise, area preaching is always something I'm growing in. Pastors I love to listen to. Bob Merritt from Eagle Brook is incredible. John Weiss from Southland Christian in Kentucky is awesome. I also really appreciated Judah Smith. So I think Judah is one of the best preachers of our time. And so just seeing what he's doing and just listening to him. None of those 3 preachers are anything like me, which I love. So I'm not listening to people that I think are like me. I'm listening to people who are different from me. And then honestly, Holly on our staff is so dynamite. She's preaching this week, and I learned from her so much. Yeah, I'm so grateful for Holly. So just finding out who those people are and learning from them. Anytime with Holly, I honestly feel like I'm learning more from her than she could ever learn from me. So it's a great way to feel that way about your team. Yep.
Question for you. Your bishop comes to you and says, we have a new assignment for you.
Yeah.
You're going to be pastoring a church that was planted in 1843. It's got a pipe organ. It's got chancel choir, sanctuary,
Yeah.
down pews. Where do you start?
So,
2019.
yeah.
Okay.
Bishop O, I think I'm retiring. No. So again, like the soil is so much harder in those circumstances. I'm going to answer the question a couple different ways. First off, I'd keep my eyes on churches that are doing the exact same thing. The church that I see it doing it in a lot of different ways, slightly different, is HTB Church, Nicky Gumbel's church, where Alpha started in London. That's one of my favorite churches in the world. I've drank the Alpha Kool-Aid completely. We're trying to bring our entire church through Alpha. The new content's unbelievable. So we have hundreds of people right now going through Alpha at Embrace. So what I would do in that setting is I would try to get a couple wins. I would get wins any way I could get wins. And I'd also honor the people currently as much as I could, like by the grace and strength and courage and love of Jesus in my heart, to like honor the admin board, because in a lot of those, the admin board have become the boss of the church. I always say for a good lead team person, it's a person who does not want to be on the lead team. Anybody who asks to be on the lead team, it's almost like Fight Club, you know? Anybody who asks to be on the lead team automatically is not a good fit for the lead team. I want to find people who are so busy being used by God as well that I have to drag them into the position instead of them having an ego trip and whatever else. And even a difference of finding people who crush it in their workplace and then all of a sudden become the most faithless people ever inside the church. I never thought I'd be a pastor. I always thought I'd be a business leader, and especially to the fellas, I just challenge them. I'm like, what I feel like I'm hearing is you have more faith in your company than you do in the body of Christ. Woe to you. Like, man, you have more stock in your little company that's expanding at rapid rate, and then you get to church and you're Mr. Conservative that doesn't want to do anything? Are you kidding me? That sounds like burying a talent in the sand. And so, but looking for ways to serve them and trying to see what you can get by them. As far, what I mean by is, hey, we're not going to go to all contemporary services, but would you mind if I started a service at 11 a.m.? Would you mind if I started a service then? It's not going to mess with the first two that we already have. Would you mind if I did then? So trying to figure out what they will be okay with. Well, Adam, I can't preach 3 times on a Sunday. Yes, you can. I preach 4 times every single Sunday. Some weeks I preach 5 times. With Christmas, I preach 10 times. I can't preach 5 times every week, but I can preach 4 every week. And so trying to figure out again, like, would you guys be okay if I did an 11 o'clock service? It's not going to cost the church anything. If it does, maybe there's one person in the church who's a go-getter. Would you mind giving like $5,000 to just help me do some things in the sanctuary? Just a little bit. Well, what do you mean? Between the services, we're going to transform the sanctuary. Well, you can't do that. Yeah, you can. Get a few volunteers. I think we just like sell ourselves shorts. And again, I'm speaking out of ignorance, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. You can shoot me and slash my tires of my car that I don't have out here. So, but trying to figure out what you can be okay with. Like, would you be okay with an 11 o'clock service? Would you be okay? So for that service, just trying that. The first time you get a win, sharing the win. The first time you get a story, sharing the story. Hopefully, by the grace of God, it's not a person on the board losing a kid to a drug overdose. That's the story. Hopefully, it's the kid whose daughter's struggling with drugs. Her life gets turned around is the story. God can use either of those, unfortunately. But all of a sudden, it's the lady from St. Croix Valley. I'm not concerned with any of our walks with Jesus, but I'm so concerned about my daughter's walk with Jesus. You get one person like that, then you can start doing some changes. And so then, like, even for like a service then, like, is there a way of doing like what's being done? But for that 11 o'clock service, you call the series. My movies from the 80s series, it sounds topical and shallow. It's probably the most in-depth series we've done. I mean, we hopped into the book of James, and I challenged everybody to read the book of James. Pastor, that's not deep enough. Did you read the book of James? No, I didn't. Okay, then you're not deep enough. Like, people who want deep enough usually just want big fancy words thrown at them. And man, that deep enough question, holy cats, that gets me fired up, you know? Like, oh geez, that's one of the trips my trigger. You know, I'm like, no. So I think so what it is, so like during the first 2 services, it's just a message from James chapter 1, and for that 11 o'clock, it's movies from the 80s, and we're going to jump into James chapter 1. And so just figuring out what you can, that's why I'd probably just look for little wins, and then just honor as much as you can. Don't be a punk. At different times, I've wanted to be a punk. Even with conference leadership, I was 24, so maybe that's an excuse to be a punk, but there was definitely a punk inside of me for a while, where I just was like, you don't know what you're talking about, you know, and now I'm just a lot slower to speak, because it's like, I don't have any clue what I'm talking about. So just making sure you're honoring, but I think that's what I would do. And then, Lord willing, there's fruit, and there's fruit, and there's fruit, and there's fruit, and hopefully it brings the church together instead of bringing it apart. But I don't know what happens at that point. Just seeing fruit there, and man, the old buildings, even in the area here, I'm like, man, I want to quit my job and move out here because just the buildings, I mean, like, yeah. Well, it's just true. Like, I just think about, like, that's what HTB Church, take all the pews out, put lights on the walls and light it up. I mean, it's beautiful. And God doesn't need museums. And really, when you just, like, I just think we forget about why we went to seminary. Did we, like, go to seminary to be yacht, like, managers, cruise line people? I didn't. I honestly, even through this last summer, I'm like, can I just go into the business world again? Like, and do that? Because I'd much rather do that. No, I want to be used to tell people about Jesus. And these big buildings, they're not that old. They're 200 years old. Are you kidding me? They were just put up a couple of weeks ago. You know what I mean? Like, we were so weird. It's been there forever. No, it hasn't. It wasn't there 200 years ago. And so just our mindset is so weird. And I think just keeping that Wesleyan spirit. Like, I decided to become vile to save more souls. Man, I hope that be true of me. Not because I'm trying to be a renegade. I don't want to be a renegade, but because it's so important. Our task is so important. And so if it peeves off our biggest giver, I'm so sorry. If I got to have a conversation with my DS, I'm so sorry. Like, and again, not because I'm trying to be a punk, but because I'm trying to be faithful, you know? So even in church, this is a tangent for a second. I just think about my daughter if she was drowning. She's 7 years old. She's the sweetest thing ever. What would I want people to do to reach her? Anything. Anything. And there are so many people drowning spiritually. Well, that's a little intense, Adam. No, look at the suicide rate. It's actually not intense. That's a little intense, Adam. No, look at the drug rate. It's not intense. Look at this rate. Look at this rate. Look at this rate. It's like, I'm like, I just pray if it was my daughter, we'd do anything. And yet so often it's like, well, we got to make sure it doesn't upset people. And I'm like, man, my daughter's drowning. So I just want to tell her I don't want to be a punk. So and I think the heart is the biggest thing. Because if you're a punk, first off, God's not going to get behind it. So you're going to try something and it's going to fail miserably. But if it's like, really, Lord, I want to honor you. I want to serve you. I just want to be used by you. I think God will use that. So
It's helpful because one of the biggest challenges I think we face, we have 880 congregations. 850. We used to have 880 4 years ago. Congregations across our Indian conference, we haven't eclipsed 1,000 in worship.
yeah,
You're talking about numbers that now we see churches in our area.
yep,
The LCBCs,
Yep.
Use the alphabet you want to for the churches that are doing it.
yep,
But we're not doing it.
yep,
You have the same brand,
yeah,
same flavor, but it's working.
yeah,
So I'm sitting here struggling going, okay, what's missing?
yeah.
It's not our theology. I agree with Adam Hamilton. We've got the theology
Oh.
that it needs. We've got the message. What is it that's missing? And that's why I gave you that's a real example of the church I'm sort of planted in 1843.
Yep. So I think even reprogramming our brain of what's possible. So like that third service, it is possible. Mm-hmm. You can do it. You can change between the second and third service clothes. Really? Like you think I should actually change my clothes? I think you should. Like just some of those things that I think we just set as like I can't do that, I can't do that, I can't do that. Yeah, you can. Now you're becoming the board that you're trying to fight against is actually yourself. And so I think just like, I mean, even for us, some of the hard decisions, so one of the things we did this summer, we killed Vacation Bible School. We don't do it anymore. Of a church that's made up of young families, I thought that was the worst. I'll be honest, that was not. That was a Holly decision where she just smiles at you as she's throwing stuff at you and you're like, this feels so nice. But like, we did it and like, this is a praise God like moment. We went from 800, the most kids we've ever had at Vacation Bible School, to just under 2,000 kids. For just a decision, like that's a bold move. What if it would have failed? What if it would have failed? Then we try again. So I think just thinking about those things, even a buddy of mine planted the Branches. It's a Methodist church in Indiana. His name's Alex Hershey. I went to school with Alex. He was a bald dude with glasses. I thought he was so cool. And so what I seriously did, I wanted to be Alex Hershey's buddy in seminary. He listened to records on a record player. I thought that was cool. I like typewriters. And so he planted a church a few years back, and he just asked, he's like, hey, do you have any tidbits? And I said, I went to your website, and it says the Reverend Alex Hershey. I'm like, who's that weird stiff? Like, get rid of like, if you think it will reach people, keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it. Like Alex, you're Alex. You're not weird. What the heck is a rev? And so, like, I think just like even like thinking and humbling ourselves, like, what is that? I would encourage you, be the person God has called you to be. So we have a Methodist conference next Friday and Saturday at Embrace. The conference is putting it on, and I'm talking about being authentic. Just be who God has called you to be. I'm like, Alex, be the cool guy that I want to be friends with because I'm drawn to the Jesus inside of you. Be that person, and I'll come to your church, even if I haven't been to your church in a long time. So I think sometimes it's those subtle things and trying to get some of the religious talk out of our language even. So one of our campus pastors at our broadcast campus, his name's Brian. We just hired him from Eagle Brook. It's one of the best hires we've ever had. Eagle Brook's a church of 30-some thousand. They had over like 50 or 60,000 for Easter. And his first job there, he had 700 volunteers underneath him. So kind of talking about like numbers that I can't register. I can't register any of that. I'm like, I don't even know what that looks like. So he's just able to do some things. So even one of our values, and we'll get to this in a second, is in all things we consider the first-time guest. So that's one of our values. He has pushed that so far. So at the start of our service, we've never done this until Brian. Hey guys, I just want to let you know, I just want to welcome you. My name's Brian. And if you're here today, we're going to sing a few songs. We'd never say this in the past, by the way. We're going to sing a few songs. The words are going to be on the screen. And so if you feel like you'd like to sing with us, we'd love to have you sing with us. If you just want to sit there and observe, that's totally cool as well. After we sing a few songs, Adam, our lead pastor, he's going to come up and we're in a series right now called Movies from the 80s. Anybody like the 80s? I love the 80s too. And so he's going to come up and share that. But at this time, we're just going to turn and just kind of say hello to people around us. We encourage everybody to give a high five and make it pop. So that's his campus pastor part. I mean, he's telling everything. He's speaking that language. Something I'll never forget, my first annual conference was in Bismarck, North Dakota. Okay? Yeah, seriously. Pray for North Dakotans. I don't know if they have a heart or a soul. Like the cold weather has like killed it somehow. My wife's from North Dakota. I love North Dakota. Anyways, I was at annual conference for 2 hours. This is kind of embarrassing. I went to my car and I cried because I felt so out of place. I felt so unwelcomed. I didn't even feel like I knew what they were talking about. Like it was like this foreign place. I'm like, I feel so awkward here. I didn't know how to handle it, so I just went and cried. And I'm like, that's how our first-time guests feel. It's like, what, are we on a different planet here? Like, I don't even understand what this guy's saying. What did she say again? I don't even know. What is she wearing? What is that? Like, and so I think just those basic things that we take for granted, I think that's why. So you see an LCBC church, they're just doing things. And you might disagree with how they do it, but they're just trying to meet people right where they are. And actually, I think Paul and Jesus did the same thing. Paul at Mars Hill, I honestly think his talk at Mars Hill, I probably wouldn't let him talk at my church again. Like that's just and I'm like, that convicts me. Why would I not do that? He quotes a pagan philosopher. Well, you might want to throw a Bible verse in there, Paul. You know, he is speaking their language. And so even with these video clips, it's like taking something that the people know and love, warm fuzzies. Even when we showed like the clip from E.T., I got this warm, I love E.T. I'm like, I was sad when I found out E.T. wasn't real. It's so and then connecting E.T. with your life. Like every time that comes up, people are going to think to themselves, we connected with Philippians, my home's in heaven. Like, I don't belong here. And so it's just happening. So I think it's just utilizing those things. Instead of all that churchiness, like the churchiness, if it can reach people, use it. So if a hymn reaches people, don't use anything modern. Use it. So just use it. I think that's what churches are doing. They're just not playing by the rules. Like they cancel VBS, and the lead pastor didn't want to. Me. And I love that we did. It was the best decision we've made. So then we'll do Ninja Camp. We'll probably do it for 2 years, maybe 3 years, and then we'll kill that because it doesn't work anymore. So like even movie nights in Sioux Falls, sometimes it's just about striking when the iron's hot and you see an opportunity just to go for it. So our movie nights used to be huge deals. And then 3-4 years into it, almost every church was doing a movie night. And so it lost its edge, and then all of a sudden it was just embrace people that were coming. Well, that wasn't a success for us. We did it, yes, for embrace people. My kids went every single time. But we did it for my kids' friends at school. That's why we did it. That's what a win was for us. So.
Adam, thank you.
Uh,
Could I ask you to rewind
yeah.
just a tad bit?
Yeah.
We're anxious to hear what you did differently at Vacation Bible School.
Okay, so I'm going all over the place. Is this okay?
Great.
Okay, so what did we do with Vacation Bible School?
You said you stopped Bible school.
Yeah. So
And grew.
yeah. So what we did. What was this?
Well, more magic, 800 to 2,000. So we were just curious, like, can you unpack that? Just a
Yes.
little bit?
Find a felt need. That's it. Like find a need. What do people need? Marriages are struggling. Talk about marriage. Kids want to go to camp, but they're kind of expensive. Becky and I even like to put our kid in flag football. It's expensive. Like we have to take money out of savings. It's not just like, oh, just write a check and pay for flag football. So it's finding a felt need and then just trying to offer it. So VBS, what we found was we were really ministering to a bunch of church kids from other churches. That's not success for us. Yes, we want to minister to those kids. That's my 4 kids. So we care about those 4 kids. The day that I don't care about my 4 kids, it's just not reality. It's like, no, I would move heaven and earth for my kids. So we care about our kids that are here, but we want to tell kids that aren't here about Jesus. And so we just started thinking, it's like, man, we're just reshuffling kids. I was the stick in the mud on this decision. I mean, I was your board that like, we've never done this. We're like, why are we trying to kill our young families? That's what I felt. I'm like, this is who we are. You can't just like take an axe to the root. I'm like, what are you doing? And but it was like, no, just take a chill, Weber. And so Holly, again, just so perfectly, she's like, I just think like if you offer something that kids want to go to, they're just going to want to go to it. And they're going to start begging their family, begging their kids, begging whatever. And so she's like, I think we should do like, first it was like a sports camp. So there was going to be a sports camp or a music camp. My oldest is music, so he's not into sports. And so trying to figure out what to do there, and it's like, gosh, that just feels harder. And then all of a sudden it was like, what about a ninja camp? Just a day ninja camp. And I was like, oh my goodness, Holly Brown is brilliant. I mean, as soon as she said it, I was like, that's it, that's gonna work. So what we did was and not everybody can do this. So what we did was we made a curriculum for a day, just a day, not even 24 hours, 6 hours. So we built a ninja course. This is utilizing, oftentimes, here's what's so cool. This is what I love about construction projects, especially for guys. Guys often feel like they don't have a place when it comes to volunteering. Me in your kids' area, if you see me in your kids' area, called child services. He seems like he has a very good heart but I'm just concerned about him. He seems shady. I'll call the cops on me. But you have all these guys that are wanting to serve that just don't have a place. Gals that are wanting to serve that just don't have a place. So it's like, hey, would you want to build a ninja course for us? You see these guys just step up, these gals step up to the plate and just go to town. So we built a ninja course. We built it on Joshua. Story of Joshua was the storyline for the day. And kids that signed up in campus by campus, we did this differently. In the town of T, which runs like 450 on a Sunday, every kid who signed up had a ninja show up to the house to drop off their gear. Nice. So they got a shirt, they got a water bottle, they got something else. This is the first year we did charge. It was $10, but we said any kid we made it so strong. If money's an issue for us, we had 5-10 families that were like, we'll write thousands of dollars of checks to cover kids. So if there's a parent that even hesitates and doesn't even ask, pay their way. So we just did that, and I mean, it was just like a grass fire. So we had 5 campuses. So we just did one a Saturday, and we moved it. So for Minnesota, we got a flatbed trailer, loaded it all up on there, and now our Minnesota campus is using the Ninja stuff in the kids area. So that was it. And what happened was our first week was our smallest week, and we thought this would happen. And what was awesome, it just became a wildfire. The next 3 weeks in a row, we had to close the door, which is like the worst thing ever. It's like, but we have no more room. And we wanted to make it a good experience for the kids that did come. So there was campuses, one campus like 3 weeks out, shut off registration, which sucks. This next year we'll be prepared for it. We just didn't think it'd be like that. And then though, the biggest success bar though, is this is the win part. Not just that we got a bunch of kids there, okay, how are we getting them connected with the church? So does it translate? So that's what so we didn't have a campus pastor at our broadcast campus during that season. Brian he was on his way, but was still finishing up. And we did not capitalize on that well. And so we dropped the ball, but at T, it just exploded. I mean, their kids area, now we're trying to build them a building because they've maxed out their entire thing. I'd say because of Ninja Camp.
You talked about, doing things like changing clothes between services and, having your name presented in such a way that might be more effective for reaching different people.
Yeah, just simple stuff, yep.
In order to do that, and kind of what Bruce was saying, in order to do that, sometimes we might have to back off and stop doing some things that we think are helpful.
Yep.
Are there things over the course of time as you've grown that you said, you know what, we used to think this was a really valuable thing for us to do, but we actually don't need to do that? Not necessarily because you've grown so large, but you can't necessarily hire somebody to do everything.
Yep.
But maybe you could quit doing something that isn't producing results that you thought it might be.
Yeah, so we're kind of jumping in the outreach part, and that's okay. Most things we end up killing. So one of my jobs is always to find every sacred cow and try to kill it, try to tackle it and kill it as fast as I can. And what's interesting in this season is realizing how many sacred cows I have. That's kind of been the humbling. It's like, now the 24-year-old guy is 36, and it's amazing how quickly you start forming these things, isn't it? It's just like, now I got a herd of sacred cows. But that's the delicate part. So that's where it's going to be hard. And that's where I had the leg up of starting a church and being able to set DNA. So you just gotta kind of dance that a little bit. Of hey, hospital visits. Would it be okay if I had this person do them as well instead? Can I raise up a team of volunteers? Every staff person on your staff should be raising up volunteers. Everybody. That's a shift that we have made in a big way. So my admin assistant, her name's Kaylin, she's great. She is quiet. She is naturally not what you'd think of as a leader. She's great with words. She helps me with blog posts. So she does a lot of stuff that's really unique. But even her now. So yet last night I emailed her and said, hey, when I'm out, I'd love you to develop a game plan she's got a passion for prayer. So to have a prayer team during the 8:30 service every single week. So she's excited about it. And now at first though, she was like, can I talk with so-and-so to see if I can borrow she didn't say this, but basically, can I utilize their volunteers for this? And I was like, oh no, actually totally new volunteers. And then all of a sudden you can just see it in her face but so so trying to try that dance of what can we transition, even from your own tasks. That's what I would even challenge you. One thing we did a few years ago for our campus pastors, and myself included, we mapped out our entire week, and then we had the campus pastors and myself critique other people's schedules. And it was fascinating, where it's all of a sudden I'm a campus pastor's doing something, and I'm like, you're spending 4 hours on that? We need to get rid of that. It's something that you didn't even realize was a huge drag on their schedule, cutting it out or delegating it. So, man, you need to delegate that. Or this, I didn't realize it took 4 hours to do that. I thought 10 minutes. We're dropping that. and then allowing them to do the same thing to your schedule of like, you're doing that? And oftentimes, this is the hard thing to say, oftentimes there's a lot of laziness that you'll discover in your own schedule. I'm speaking just from a strength area right now, so I just got to say this lightly. There was only one other student who started and finished with me, and his wife was a med student. So, and I rarely ever studied at nights in seminary. So I finished in just under 3 years my MDiv, and my buddies are like, when do you do this? And I said, when Becky goes to work, I get up and I go to the library. And because I was newly married, I didn't want to hang out with a bunch of sweaty seminary dudes. I wanted to hang out with my wife because she's awesome. And so like the motivation was, you want to hang out with your wife, get out of bed and go to the library. Okay, I'm going to the library. But I think for some of us, we need that, just that kick in the butt of just like, how are you utilizing your schedule? So I would even encourage that. But big picture stuff like Advent Fest, we'd spent all these time and resources on Advent Fest. The only people who came was Embrace people. However, there was some really great things in Advent Fest that we loved. And so instead of just, so we killed Advent Fest, which was one of our staff people at the time, their like main baby. I felt bad. I'm like, I'm sorry, can I take your baby calf away? But what we did was we sprinkled those things that we loved throughout the Sundays of Christmas. So like, whether it's a photo booth, whether it's camels outside to take a selfie with, whether it's decorating an ornament, whether it's whatever, we did those things that were highlights. Live music, like a barbershop quartet, put them in the entryway or out front as people are walking up. Like, man, I love barbershop quartets. That's unbelievable. That's really cool. I've never seen that. And all of a sudden what's crazy is one of the dudes or one of the guys or gals or whoever in the barbershop quartet, man, I haven't been to church in a while. Like, I might just sit in one of the services. Now you got a story. Man, this guy who we just asked to sing out front came, and now his whole family's coming. Bam. That's a story too. That gives me chills just even thinking about it. So God utilizing something like that. Our guy who he just got out of the camel business, which is, I wish I could say that about myself. Just kind of getting out of the camel business these days. Like, I wish I had a camel. And but he every year would come, and he'd always poke his head, and he lived 40 miles away. But he always was so curious about what we were doing. And you could just see the curiosity, which I would say is the Holy Spirit just working in him of like, what's going on? Why do you guys want camels every year? You know, just kind of like, so that's where cool stuff happens. But figuring out what you can kill, it's a lot harder though in an established church of what can we get rid of? And again, if you have stories help. So trying to be as honoring as you can. Gosh, it's hard though. People get weird about their sacred cows. I do. I'm a hoarder by nature, a sentimental hoarder. It's like, you want to throw away what? But it was his first time he ever drew a picture of something I didn't know he drew. So Becky's like, we're throwing it away. But any other questions on that?
The other question I had related to the change to the Ninja Camp.
Yeah.
Was how did you connect the families and the young people to ongoing pathways of discipleship? Because it could be just a really exciting event for one day.
And then it's worthless.
Okay.
Yep. So a couple things. First off, you may not see the results right away.
Okay.
So if they have a wonderful experience, a little bit of Jesus mixed in there, at that point, like that's really our agenda for the day is for them to feel loved, have fun, hear about Jesus. That's our agenda. They may not come right now, but man, it's Christmas time. We really need a church. Remember that ninja camp thing? Kids, would you want to go back to the place that had the ninja camp? They're going to be like, heck yeah, Dad. And instead of having to drag them there, they're going to be like, can we? So you may not see the fruit right away. But the other thing is reaching out to them. The next series that's solid that you think would connect with mom and dad, letting them know. So that first week that what we did, I think we gave with the next series, because that was kind of middle of summer, with our fall series, we reached out to that specific group of people and said, hey, any kids that come will get a ninja like headband. And just because we want to celebrate, and we showed the video that Sunday from Ninja Camp. So we actually held it like a month and a half because we were intentionally going to use it. Like, hey, this summer, you might not even know it, but we did a ninja camp, and I just want to show you this quick clip. Like, this was awesome. All the parents are like, even the stick in the mud parents who don't want change. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, awesome. And so you connect with the kids. So utilizing that information big time. Also, so we have the marriage event. You better believe parents are getting an email, an invite to that. Most of them, especially if that little hoodlums, their marriage is struggling. It's been the hardest season of Becky and I's marriage is kids just pulling at you constantly. And so, man, that's a felt need. Again, so I think just that, intentionally trying to do that. And I think just discipleship from there. Hopefully they'll end up in a large group of ours going through Alpha. Hopefully they'll end up in one of the other large groups of ours, 5 dates. Becky and I are leading the 5 dates material. It's Mike and Jennifer Foster. It's phenomenal. Becky and I are going through it. It's just laid out so well. Just a simple workbook, and we just kind of make it feel like an event. So we have, in our large group, we have 54 couples coming right now. So I think there was 54 couples last week. So on stage, we have an end table set up with a couch. And so we welcome people, Becky and I. It's been fun to do even as a couple. Find something, if you're married, find something ministry-wise that you enjoy doing together. And there might not be any fruit in it at all, but just something you just love doing together. Becky is the quieter half, but she's the wiser half. I love when she talks. And so we just welcome people, and it's so important you're here. We love that you're here. This last week we did a game to start, and then, hey, so we're going to break up right now, and the first time is alone time. So it's spread out throughout the entire building, just for you. It's 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, we'll interrupt you, and we have a simple dessert. So get a dessert, and then go sit down with your spouse. And on page whatever, the questions for you and your spouse. And just be in the raw, authentic part. I know for some of us here tonight, this is not going to be fun. For some of us here, we may not even want to speak to our spouse. And so I just want to acknowledge that, and I just want to challenge you to be kind with your spouse, to realize your spouse isn't the enemy, but they're your teammate. And so let me just pray really quick. God, would you just bless this time? Would this just be a sweet time? Would we lay down our weapons that we have, our grudges? I mean, you share that, and then all of a sudden people are like, you just have their soul in the most honoring way. You're messing with their soul. And so they have that, and then they come together, and to kind of do something lighthearted, we show a movie clip. So the first week we showed a clip from Dumb and Dumber. I like you a lot. And then, so what are the chances of a guy like me getting together with a girl like you? Like 1 in 1,000? And she's like 1 in 1,000,000. So that's just lightheartedness, just adding that laughter piece. It's a 1.5-minute clip. And then, hey guys, okay, so right now we're going to break into group time. Find 3 or 4 couples. Just want to give you full permission. You do not have to speak. So if you're not at a place where you want to share, just listen. And why this group time? Because I know that as a married couple myself, one of the biggest lies that Satan tries to tell us is we're the only ones struggling. That's not true. All of us are a work in progress. And so I hope that you're encouraged by hearing other people share, and so that's why we're doing it. That time I worried would be really awkward because it's so personal, I don't even know these people, and I'm talking about my marriage. But it's just, we've had to cut the time off because it's been so talkative. And then, hey guys, end of the night, come back in. Just want to tell you, next week you need to come back. So what I said this last week, we meet on Thursday nights. Next week we have a couple. It's a marriage that I've looked up to most of my life. And Becky and I are going to interview them as part of the time. Basically, I'm saying come back, come back, come back, come back. And so that's kind of the follow-up plan.
Well, part of what I hear you saying is you actually design things to follow. So
yeah.
You have a plan moving forward that they can re-engage here, they can re-engage here.
Yep.
And you get their addresses and contact information.
As much as we can.
Okay.
Yep. And in a non-greasy way. You know, just make, like, you got to think about it. Like, just, I don't like giving out my information to anybody. Like, I'll give you I'll give you my email address. But my cell phone, I'm like, I don't really have a cell phone. So, just being really intentional with it. But one of the main things, and this is kind of jumping in outreach for a second, Christmas time, what is your next series? That if they're coming for Christmas, they should be hearing all about that series. And we try to hit a very felt need in January. So our Januaries, we go up. I think it's just that difference. That's that LCBC. They're doing that kind of stuff. So, hey, we're so glad that you're here for Christmas. Next month, you need to come back. Honestly, January is one of the most like exciting times to be around the church. This January, we're talking, and this was a few years back. This January, we're talking about sex. And so I'm might be an expert in the topic, and then people laugh. And I'm like, my wife would say otherwise. You know, like just that honesty again, like just that. Yeah, well, just that honesty part, like, and being true. Like, if I didn't say that, I would be fake. Another random quick thing. Years ago, we always are joking on stage, and one of our campus pastors said, I told him, I said, sometimes are we being like irreverent and stuff? And he said, Adam, I honestly think if we didn't do this on Sundays, we'd be fake. And I said, what do you mean by that? And he's like, we joke all the rest of the week. And he's like, we'd be fake if we didn't. And I said, I felt the same way. And also, I think one of the most holy things you can do, I feel like we're all adults, so I can say this. With my wife, away from sex, one of the most intimate, holy things we do together, where it's like, if you want to be in the holy of holies in my marriage, it's the moments we laugh together so hard that we're crying. Like those, I'm like, that's what makes my marriage wonderful. Because sometimes life sucks, and you just need a laugh. And I think so often we leave laughter out of our relationship with God. And it's like, I'm the one who created this. And so not doing it in an irreverent way or a disrespectful way, but just that lightheartedness, all of a sudden it's like, I can relate with that. And man, my sex life in my marriage is struggling. Or I've slept with a whole bunch of people and I feel gross about it. And I kind of want to hear about what God has to say. The year we did a series, it was just called Sex. I'm not kidding, our attendance went through the roof. I couldn't believe it. It's a felt need. People to be ashamed of. And I think just talking about it is a powerful way. So harnessing as much January, even after Easter, it was a 1-week series. What was our title called? Oh, Elephants in the Church. So that's what it was the next week. So we just talked about different elephants in the church, and we saw it again. So trying to harness everything. If you do a marriage event, if you do something, what are you trying to get them to? So we've done women's nights, ladies' nights that have been incredible. Our last one, Lisa Turker shared. And and at that time, it wasn't public with what she was going through. It makes me respect her so much more. I'm like, Lisa Turker, I will follow you anywhere. So hey guys, you're here tonight, ladies. This has been awesome. But we don't want it to end here. And we know as women, and this is a woman on stage too, it's not some yahoo, me. I'd be like, what does that bald guy have to know about anything about doing ladies night? Get out of here. And so it's just a lady in our church who's just a pillar in the church. Women, I don't know about you, but I feel alone a lot of times. And I feel like I'm falling short. And I feel like I don't have any community. And so after this, we're going to be launching a large group going through this. And so we have group leaders. Ladies, if you're a group leader, you want to stand. All these women stand that look normal. And all of a sudden it's like, these women just like, oh, I'm longing for this. I don't want it to end. And so it's just tapping into those simple things, being very intentional.
What are you talking about this January?
This January, we're actually I don't know what we're talking about this January. Give me 1 second on that answer. We just mapped out this year, which is new for us. Don't be impressed. I'll get that answer for you. We just did it last week and I'm drawing a blank. I think I have it somewhere over here too. It's kind of
Well, while you're looking that up, there was a pastor that I was talking to, Dillop from Sunbury, and they always do a hog roast at their church. And hundreds of people show up, but they never got their names and addresses. He said, we just simply got their names and addresses. We're in contact with them, and several of those families are already coming to their church. It's relational rather than promotional.
yeah.
'Cause- and that's what he's learning. It's like, no, how do I have a relationship with these people and not just post an event in the newspaper or.
Yeah. Like even in Ninja Camp, try to tell kids not to tell their friends about Ninja Camp. Try to tell a mom not to tell her other mom friends about a Ninja Camp. That's like, hey, if you can't pay for it, they'll cover it. And a ninja shows up at your doorstep. A ninja shows up. I'm like the cheesiest person ever. I'm like, can the ninja show up riding a camel? I'd be like, you got me, I'm coming, okay. But you figure when you hit a felt need, then your promotion, you just can't stop it. And it's gonna happen. That's when you find something like, hey, our pastor's doing this series at our church, the 5 things that will kill your relationships. In a time and age when it feels like everything is killing relationships, and nobody has friendships, and everybody's stabbing everybody in the back, and it's like, oh man, that sounds like something I need to go do. Then it just happens. So if you feel the felt need, and Jesus met felt needs, and then he tied it to something deeper. Because ultimately, it's going to be what will kill your relationships, but the twist on every single message is what will kill your relationship with God. So it's that same thing, like gossip, it kills your friendship really, really quickly, but it also kills your relationship with God. And like expectations, like just those felt needs are as simple as you can get. Any other questions? Gosh, we have a lot.
You've been talking a lot about large groups. So, does Embrace use large group as an intermediate step between worship and small group life? Is that kind of the hope?
Great question. So, this is the learning part of Embrace. So, small groups has been something, we had small groups before we even had our actual first worship service. So small groups has been a part of who we are. Becky and I have been a small group for the life of the church. We've never not been in a small group. So it's something we live out to. It's something I'm super passionate about. Like small groups is where you can dive deeper, not in the lame Pharisee sort of way, but in the true like God sort of way of caring for people, of loving on people, of asking questions that you're wrestling with, of digging deeper into a verse that you don't understand. I just got a Facebook message from a gal last night. She messaged me at 10 o'clock at night. Adam, this last week you talked about our desires. James said our temptation comes from our desires. So in the message I said, just to quickly say, not all desires are wrong. And some desires come from God himself. So and we actually talked in our message group, and I'll get to that this afternoon, bless you. I'll actually get to that this afternoon. We have a team of people who kick through the message, and we actually kicked around that exact thing. It's like, I don't want people to think all their desires are bad and sinful. So I was like, can I go deeper on that a little bit? And they're like, Adam, I feel like it's a tangent. And I was like, okay, but can I just say this? And they're like, yeah, say that. And in hindsight, I'm so glad I said that. Because she even mentioned, you said not all desires are sinful, some come from God himself. So the question was, how do I know which desires are sinful? And God will give you the desires of our heart from Psalm 37:4, I believe it is. How do you know the difference? Man, I wish Hope is her name. I don't think she's in a small group. That's a perfect question for your small group. What do you guys think of that? What do you think? Like, I don't know. Like, I read here in this, it says this. Well, maybe the correct answer. When we begin to follow Jesus, our desires become God. Like, our desires become more like His. And so and just kind of checking things against God. Like, Lord, what do you think about this desire? Like, is this business I want to start? Is this from you? Or is it like selfish ambition? Is it like just a ploy to get more money? because that's not of you. And so like that's where you can dive deeper into small groups. So I'm a big fan of small groups. What we found out though, I'm a high extrovert, so I'll go anywhere, including getting on the camel with the ninja and showing stuff. And so I find myself in places very often where I'm like, I think to myself, this is how people are murdered and their bodies are never discovered. So I will go anywhere, like I have no idea where this is leading me, yet I'm so excited. Where most people are not like that. It's like, I'm gonna go to somebody's house to talk about Jesus with someone I've never met and I don't even know I believe in Jesus. That sounds a big stinking step.
Yeah.
On the weird zone, like my weird meter is like pinging. Only Adam Weber is showing up to that. So what we discovered though, so back in January we did the momentum thing. You have to if you have Holly Brown on your team. We took the entire church through Dave Ramsey. So we had as many people as we could, not the entire church. We had 500-600 people that went through it. So, but we offered large groups for the first time. So hey, our campus pastors are going to lead these large groups. They're at the campuses. Childcare is provided. So what a person sitting in the pew, first off, when we gave them the felt need, like gave them stats about debt, about credit cards, testimony, stories from myself even. But we took away all the weirdness. It's going to be in this room with that person leading, with childcare in a place that your kids already know. No, that's not weird. I'm already here. So the entry point was so much easier, and then we saw hundreds of people who have never been in a group get into a group. And from that though, this is the step we're trying to figure out, because all our pre-existing groups are still meeting, and we're pouring into them, pouring into their group leaders, blah, 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 blah. How do we get people from a large group then to a small group? But that large group has been a great entry point. So this year, for the large groups, we offer 2 large groups at every campus, Alpha and the 5 dates. Again, 2 felt needs. Alpha, if you've never done it before, it's so good. The Alpha series is the newest one. It's so good. And Nikki Gumbel and HDB are incredible. And they feel so Methodist. Like it feels so much us. There's a little bit of charismaticness the one week, but it's kind of us, And so it's like, we talk about the Holy Spirit. And so we just had those again, and it's at the campuses right now, and saw an incredible response. And so now what we're hoping, and that's what's great about the part of the night in both of those is group time. Hopefully what we're seeing already, even in the 5 dates, it's only 5 weeks long, people are naturally forming groups. They're naturally like, hey, you guys want to meet up again? And all of a sudden it's like, hey, how to get those groups to meet now at their homes. So we're looking at offering another large group. Alpha is like 12 weeks long, so that's going to keep going, but the 5 dates, once that's done, and 5 dates leads right into the marriage event, which is intentional. The relationships, 5 things that will kill your relationships, is intentionally right after the marriage event, along with another large group right after that. So I mean, it's trying to be as intentional as you can. Hey, you got these people at this marriage event? Hey guys, this next Sunday we're starting a series called 5 Things That Will Kill Your Relationships. We're going to talk about marriage, yes, but we're going to talk about all relationships. And so we want to invite you to come back this Sunday. We're starting this new series, so just trying to be intentional with that. But yeah, large groups is a huge part of things. And another thing is just getting people into the Word. So in January, discipleship-wise, we handed out cards to bring people through the book of Proverbs. We hand out, this is something that everybody can do. We do it. It's like a study guide. Like it's just one piece of paper. On one side, it's got questions off of the message, and the other side is a personal reading plan just for yourself to go through the Bible. So just those intentional steps. We give out the New Living Translation Believers Bibles for free. Hey, if you do not have a Bible today, we want to get you a Bible. So stop, grab one of those. So I preach from the NLT right now currently, just to try to help that too. So, and it sounds crazy. Like, so our discipleship plan is so simple. It's like if people are taking those steps, we're light years ahead of where most churches are, including where our church has been. It's like if they read through the book of Proverbs is fairly intense. Like, there's things that are going to convict and challenge your life. And so, man, if we get them through Proverbs, that's incredible. That's going to life change. So I think just giving ourselves credit for those things, like that's a big deal to get people through Proverbs. So something that's been fun for myself, it's, again, unless you just have a desire to write something. So I think next week I'm releasing, so I do these simple things where you sign up to go through a book of the Bible with me. And next week I'm doing Ecclesiastes. So I've already done the content, and you'll just sign up and you'll get an email for, I can't remember how many weeks it is, or how many days it is, through the book of Ecclesiastes. That's another simple way to just get people in the Word.
Do you do any online Bible studies beyond, I mean, that's like a sharing, then do you have chat times about?
Some of the groups have some online time, especially there's a couple ladies groups who after the kiddos are to sleep, that they'll
That's
do that.
one of our,
Yep, and Becky, so Beck is bringing a group through, I think she's in Romans right now, so she does it through Facebook. She's got a Facebook group, and she does that, and then they meet once at the start and once at the end. But
Live,
yep,
face-to-face.
but otherwise it's just like, hey guys, she'll say, hey ladies, here's the kind of questions, what stuck out to you? And she'll have ladies comment on it, which is really, really cool. I just even had a couple say that like, they're dating right now, and they live out of different towns, and on the weekends when they're together, they go through that study together, and which was really cool to tell Beck. I was like, hey, I just want to tell you this, and she was like, no way. I was like, yeah, it's crazy what God can use. So, you have questions though on that?
We just started using the YouVersion Bible app, and they have canned Bible studies and so forth, devotional reading, and then you talk, whoever you have in your.
It's phenomenal,
Yeah.
and it's free.
Yeah.
So when I mentioned our message time, so in the message, hey, today we're going to jump into the book of James. I want to encourage you to open up your Bibles. And I make a joke usually. I'm like, ladies, just throw your Bible in your purse. Fellas, in your purse. Just put it in there and tuck it away. But if you don't have the Bible with you, download the Bible app right now. Or you want to offend me, download it. I want everybody to have the Bible on their phone. You never know when you just need the Bible. A hard trial, a rock bottom moment, and so I just want everybody just to have that, so I push that a lot. Open up to the book of James, chapter 1, right now. Just download the Bible app. I push that constantly. Just I'm like, man, we need that. And just a quick side note, the Bible app for kids is amazing.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Our kids like devour it. Every time there's a new story that's released, I can hear the music playing right now in my head. They just like love it, so it's cool.
And Alexa, these days, Alexa and Google will read you the Bible, or they'll read you the verse of the day. So I found traction
It's
in
awesome.
my church just saying, tell your Alexa to read to you
Yeah.
in the shower, in the bathroom.
Yep. Even the same thing with YouVersion.
It ties to you version.
Yeah. Well, you
It's
just the
big.
ability to read, like, because I think there's people that are. My brother has a learning disability, and so struggles just to understand when he reads. And I just call that out, like, hey, if reading is something that's hard for you, listen to the Bible. And a quick side note, you're actually listening to it the way that it was originally would have been said. Like, it wasn't written down. And so just even those kind of nuggets is also like, it's kind of cool. I never thought about that.